You know, it's not a coincidence. There's a real reason behind the way you've been feeling lately. And honestly, once you find out what it is, it's probably going to blow your mind. These last 5 days of September, they are not ordinary. They were never meant to be. But here's the part nobody's really saying out loud. You are not alone in feeling this way. And no, it's not just burnout or some bad habits catching up to you. Something is happening, something specific, and your body knows it long before your mind catches on. And the closer we get to the end of the month, the more intense it's all going to feel. The calendar might say the year ends in December, but on a spiritual level, it ends in September. These final days don't just close out a month, they close out the entire light half of the year. Think about it. Everything from January until now is about rising, pushing outward, a season of growth. But late September, it flips the switch. The descent begins. The days get shorter, the nights get longer. And if you're a chosen one, you start feeling this pull inward, a pull toward reflection, toward revelation, and toward the shadows that only really come alive in this half of the cycle. This is why September can feel so strange. It's not just about endings, it's about crossing a line. This is the start of the dark half of the year, and the chosen ones, you're going to feel it that much deeper. Why it hits you harder? Because you carry more light. You naturally absorb more of this pressure. Chosen ones don't just coast through energetic endings like this. When the cycle tightens, you feel it first, and you feel it the hardest. Why? Because the light you hold acts like a magnet for friction. Imagine a bell being tuned. The purer the metal, the sharper the strike needs to be to bring out its true tone. That strike is what these last few days are doing to you. While most people are just moving through the week on autopilot, you're on the front lines of a major recalibration. That's why the fatigue you're feeling isn't just random exhaustion. It's actually a sign of your power. The heavier the tiredness feels, the more of your hidden potential is being woken up and made ready. There's also a really practical reason this pressure lands on you. Think about it. Thresholds always attract testing. Those of you who are about to step into bigger roles in your life get tested for stability, for clarity, for how deep your roots go. This pressure is not a punishment. It's an accelerant for your power. You might notice that little things that never used to bother you suddenly feel unbearable, or maybe it feels like nothing you do seems to move the needle. That's the physics of an initiation. The system presses down on you so the parts that aren't solid can fall away, leaving behind the refined parts that are ready to hold more. This is why your weariness is directly proportional to what you're about to carry. It's not a sign that you're weak. It's evidence that you're being measured for bigger work. Expect sharper contrasts right now, moments of bright clarity followed by a sudden feeling of collapse, bursts of creative insight followed by complete emptiness. That pendulum swing is totally normal when a major energetic hinge is locking into place. And remember, other people will probably misread you. They'll call it drama or burnout. But you know the truth. An edge is being honed here. And the ache you feel is the mark of preparation. The truth about your exhaustion. You're not failing. You're being tricked into resting. This week's exhaustion is clever. It disguises itself as failure and tries to lure you into feeling guilty so that you stop moving. Because if you never paused, you'd force the change to happen before you were ready. Think of it like a protective brake. The universe slams on the brakes so you won't rush through a doorway you're not strong enough to hold open yet. Rest is not a retreat. It's your body's way of refusing to be used before it's ready. The tiredness forces you to pause so that when the real energy surge comes at the start of October, you can actually receive it instead of being blown apart by it. But the trick goes even deeper. The fatigue often convinces you to abandon the very practices that would ground you. That's the illusion at work. It makes you think you're failing, so you'll stop doing the very things that would stabilize you. The truth is the exact opposite. Your body is asking for strategic stillness, not complete surrender. This is a designed interruption, a forced hand that's saying, hold on. Wait. Not yet. It's ruthless in its timing, because the window right before a new cycle opens is fragile. One wrong move, and the alignment is missed. So when you feel that heavy slump, don't label it as defeat. Treat it like a checkpoint. The world is pausing you so you can be fully present for whatever is arriving next. The power of September 30th. September 30th is not the end. It's the last signature on a document that completely rewrites your next chapter. Think of the whole month as a manuscript, and September 30th is the editor who comes in and rips out all the paragraphs that don't belong. Everything that survives that final cut will behave differently in October. Everything that doesn't will show its true colors before the clock strikes midnight. This is why the energy compresses so heavily as the month closes. It's not random pressure. It's a final quality control check. People who ignore that last day often stumble into October still holding baggage they were meant to let go of. And then they wonder why the new month just feels like the same old story with a different cover. Here's the real kicker. This day has an effect that's both subtle and absolute. You'll notice doors closing, but without a lot of drama. Friendships might cool off, opportunities could fizzle out, invitations might just evaporate. It doesn't always look dramatic on the surface. Sometimes it's a slow fade, but the result is decisive. The 30th doesn't argue, it edits. It's ruthless in the best possible way because it clears space for what needs to arrive. For chosen ones, this is a threshold test. Those who resist the edits get stuck in limbo, just replaying the same old scenes. Those who accept the cut will find that October arrives with a new clarity and a whole lot less resistance. There's also a timing component that most people don't talk about. The 30th is the last chance for realignment. If something in your life has been misaligned, your values, relationships, projects, this is when the universe forces that mismatch to the surface. That's why alarms go off in your body and mind. Your system is highlighting the exact thing that has to change for your next level to land cleanly. Pay attention to what ends on the 30th. What leaves on this day is clearing space because it won't fit the new you. It's not always comfortable, but it's precise, almost surgical. And what's left is a cleaner field for you to operate from. Finally, you have to understand that the 30th can feel like a paradox. It strips things away, and at the very same time, it plants the seeds for the future. Loss and launch can happen in the same breath. You might lose a routine, a habit, or even a relationship that seemed permanent, and that loss will be the very thing that sets you free. For chosen ones, this isn't random cruelty. It's preparation. If you treat the 30th as something to fear, you'll meet it with resistance. But if you treat it as a decisive reordering, you can start to use it. This day will mark the difference between carrying old weight into the new season or stepping lighter into your next chapter. Ancestral fatigue. Not all exhaustion comes from what you did in this lifetime. Often, the weariness you feel in these final September days is an inheritance. It's ancestral burdens, unresolved vows, family traumas that have been lodged in your energy field, and they only surface when a portal like this opens wide enough to pull them up. Chosen ones are natural drain points for this kind of lineage energy. When the timing is right, the system uses you like a channel to clear out what your ancestors couldn't finish. It's messy. It can feel unfair. And it's incredibly powerful. This is why, sometimes, the tiredness has no clear source. It's not even your story to begin with, but you're being asked to finish a sentence someone else started. This process can show up in strange ways. You might feel a heaviness that just doesn't match your day, sudden waves of grief for no reason, or an inexplicable sense that you're carrying someone else's sorrow. These are not signs of personal failure. They are signs of clearance. You are exhausted because your energy field is doing work for the ones who couldn't. That sentence alone can flip the shame around. What feels like a personal breakdown is often a generational breakthrough. And because this kind of detox works below the level of conscious thought, it can be really disorienting. You might make plans and then cancel them at the last minute, or find yourself compelled to just sit with memories that you know aren't even yours. That's the field asking to be emptied. There's a logic to this timing too. Large energetic windows, like the end of September, create the space for this inherited stuff to rise safely to the surface. If the window never opened, those patterns would stay buried, repeating quietly across generations. But when the window does open, it's as if the lineage is handed an expiration date. It's either released now, or it will drag on and be forced out in much harsher ways later. This is why the tiredness can feel like both a burden and a gift. It's painful in the moment, but it's liberating afterward. The work you're doing in your weakest hours is catalytic, not just for you, but for the entire timeline you came from. Finally, know that this detox doesn't always need your conscious permission. Sometimes the field clears itself through your dreams, through sudden emotional releases, or through relationships that shift without any explanation. That lack of control is part of why it can feel so threatening, but it's also proof that something larger is operating on your behalf. The exhaustion is not a sign you're losing power. It's proof that power is being redistributed, passed through you, and onwards. You are tired because you are the vessel for someone else's freedom. Embrace that odd, generous truth. Your fatigue may be the price of liberation, for you and for those whose stories you carry. The moment of choice. You're either building pressure or you're breaking free. There is no middle ground. On September 30th, the first quarter moon arrives, and it acts less like a pretty phase in the sky and more like a red line drawn in the sand. For most people, it's just another moon update on their calendar. But for chosen ones, it's a crisis of action. It's an inner confrontation where all the tension that's been building all week has to produce some kind of movement. Imagine a pot on the stove. The heat rises, the pressure builds, and at that quarter mark, the lid either holds or it blows. That moment is decisive. The week's exhaustion, the odd withdrawals, the slow fades, and the sudden moments of clarity. It all converges into a single question the universe will ask you on that day. Will you commit or will you fold? This isn't just theoretical. You'll feel the real-world edges of it. Projects that have been limping along will either ignite or collapse with surprising speed. Relationships will reveal whether they're solid scaffolding or just dead weight. Careers, creative paths, even small personal promises. Everything gets tested. Pressure separates what will hold light from what will just dim under the strain. For chosen ones, the stakes feel amplified because your inner container has been filled with more potential than most. The energy that's built up inside you all month needs a channel. The first quarter moon asks whether you have the integrity to be that channel. It's not about performing perfectly. It's about proving you can hold the new frequency when it arrives. Expect contradictions. You'll have moments of fierce clarity, then a crash where everything seems pointless. That pendulum swing is how the system weeds out what's brittle from what's durable. And notice how much timing matters here. The choice you make on the 30th has a momentum that rolls right into October. A small yes now becomes a huge force next month. A small no can keep you stuck in the same loop. Don't mistake indecision for safety. Staying in the middle is a slow form of loss, an invisible drain that looks like comfort but functions like quicksand. The first quarter moon doesn't let you hide anymore. It's the cosmic deadline for demonstrating whether you're ready to wear what you've grown into. The moon doesn't ask for your permission. It asks for your answer. When the day closes, what remains will be clearer, sharper, and more honest. Because choices made under pressure carve reality faster than any wish or plan ever could. After dark. Be careful, because in the dark, things that hide in the daylight begin to move. For these final nights of September, there's a noticeable spike in what a lot of people are calling spiritual interference. This isn't just dramatic paranoia. It's a real pattern. People waking up at precise moments, sleep that feels shallow even after long hours, and that weird sensation of being watched when the house is empty. You see, the veil thins after sunset, and our subconscious becomes like a coastline that foreign currents can reach. During the day, your logic and your routines create a kind of protective field around you. But after dark, that field softens, and the deeper, quieter parts of you are exposed. That exposure invites movement. Some of it is good, some of it is just probing, and some of it is simply curious energy testing your boundaries. You'll see this show up in small, reliable ways. Dreams that are unusually vivid and prophetic. Nights where you jolt awake with an image you can't place. Or that sudden, inexplicable urge to walk to a window at 3 a.m. just to feel the air. People report a feeling like someone else's attention is in the room with them. Objects might seem to have an emotional weight to them. The silence can feel expectant rather than peaceful. Night is the part of the day where the ghosts of possibility come to negotiate. That phrase sounds dramatic because this time is dramatic, but it's also literal. Your subconscious is being negotiated with, tested, and sometimes rearranged. This spike in interference is strategic. Energetic forces tend to operate when we are least guarded. The darker half of the day is prime time because our layers are at their thinnest. That's when ideas that feel invasive can slip in. Thoughts that you know aren't yours. A sudden heaviness, or a creeping doubt that then informs your decisions the next morning. It's also when old patterns try to sneak back in under the radar, masquerading as intuition or just a bad mood. The important thing here is not to feed into fear. Instead, just notice the pattern. Notice the hours when the disturbances peak, the ways your sleep changes, and who or what seems to trigger the unrest. And there's an edge to this that matters. Not all of this interference is hostile. Some of it is the field testing you, probing your boundaries to see how steady you can hold. So expect restless nights, sudden awakenings, and an uncanny sense of company in the dark. Treat those experiences as data, not as doom. Each disturbance is signaling something precise about your energy field, where it's open, where it's tender, and where it can be strengthened. The night, right now, is a testing ground. How you behave in that testing ground will echo into the first days of October, when decisions made in the dark can explode into daylight consequences. The freedom of feeling nothing. What if I told you that if nothing excites you right now, that's the best thing that could possibly happen? These last days of September strip you down in a way that feels really unsettling at first. That spark that once pushed you forward, the drive that kept you reaching for the next milestone. Suddenly, it feels hollow. The projects you swore were urgent might now look completely irrelevant. The goals you thought would prove your worth just don't light you up anymore. This isn't laziness. This isn't failure. This is a dismantling. What collapses under pressure was never truly yours to carry in the first place. You see, false motivation has always been sneaky. It wears the mask of ambition, but underneath it's feeding on fear. Fear of being left behind. Fear of not being seen. Fear of not being enough. It tells you to chase what looks shiny because everyone else is running after it. It whispers that your value comes from how much you can produce, achieve, or outperform. And when this week arrives, when the compression of all this energy collides, those false sparks just burn out. The chase becomes unbearable. The carrot on the stick disappears, and you're left standing in what looks like emptiness. But it isn't emptiness at all. It's the beginning of peace. This is why so many chosen ones are describing their experience right now as apathy, disinterest, even numbness. But pause before you label that as a negative thing. What if that feeling of nothingness is actually a sign that you're finally free? Free from the weight of competing in a game that was never designed for your soul. Free from measuring yourself against people who aren't even on your path. Free from chasing shadows that were programmed into you, not chosen by you. When the illusion of need falls away, all that's left is truth. And here's the paradox. The less you push right now, the more aligned you'll be in October. If your energy refuses to engage with certain goals or certain people this week, take it as a message. Your soul is refusing to invest in something that cannot follow you forward. You don't need to force excitement for what was never meant to carry you. The exhaustion is honest. The apathy is guidance. The collapse is protection. So please, don't mistake this stage as the end of your drive. It's not the end. It's the purge. When October arrives and the new frequency begins to unfold, you'll realize the apathy was never emptiness. It was space being cleared for a purpose that can't collapse, a motivation that comes from truth, a direction that can't be stolen, and a peace that doesn't need to prove itself to anyone. The great reversal. What if everything you thought was wrong with you was actually right? These final days of September are wired for reversal, an internal flipping where your beliefs, feelings, and decisions do a hard pivot, and you're left wondering which way is up. It won't be subtle. One morning, you might wake up convinced that a certain path is closed, and by that evening, you find your heart quietly opening back up to it. A partner who felt like a total misalignment suddenly becomes the exact mirror you didn't know you needed. An idea you'd abandoned resurfaces with fresh force, and the thing you were so sure you'd dedicate your life to suddenly feels distant and just off. This is not random indecision. It's a systemic correction. The field is recalibrating your inner compass so that the directions you follow in October are true, not just convenient. These reversals happen because the energy that's been building all month needs honest channels to flow through. What looked like a failure might flip into a strategic redirection. What looked like a breakthrough might quietly recede because it was premature. Reversal is not punishment. It is reorientation. You are being rewired at a core level. Priorities that once made perfect sense are being exposed as borrowed, and instincts you ignored for years are rising up and insisting on being heard. That's why confusion so often comes before clarity in this window. The mind struggles to keep up because the heart and the energy field are already shifting tectonic plates. For chosen ones, these flips are amplified. You've been holding more potential than your current life map can even contain, so the system is forcing a realignment, sometimes by removing traction from the old routes, and sometimes by handing you an unexpected key. Imagine a compass whose needle suddenly points somewhere slightly off. The reversal corrects the magnetic pull until that needle settles on true north. During this stage, you'll meet paradoxes. A job that paid well but ate your soul will suddenly appear as the very thing blocking your next level. A relationship that felt safe will now reveal how it would have kept you small. The reversal asks you to let the certainty you built be dismantled, because maybe the certainty itself was the error. Don't mistake this turbulence for failure. It's the universe getting surgical with your trajectory. And remember, this process is precise. It doesn't scatter you into chaos. It pares you down to the essentials, so that what remains can be carried into the next season with integrity. The discomfort is temporary, but the alignment it produces will last. Reversal is the universe saying, stop conforming to the old story. Start living the one that actually fits. If you feel lost right now, it's only because you're in the middle of a necessary reorientation. Let the rotation happen. When the dust settles, you'll find that what once felt so wrong was actually steering you toward what is truly right. If you're still watching, I just want to say thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed this and want to see more, please consider clicking that subscribe button. Your support is so appreciated. Feel free to share your experiences or thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care.